So I know I'm not the only one who likes to overthink things, spending time thinking about the perfect conversation, and in your head it's perfect, and then you walk into that conversation and it goes completely sideways. So it plays out completely different than what you thought. So let's pay attention to what Tim Kung is preaching as he encourages us to go more on autopilot, to think less and accomplish more. Let's hear from Tim.
When I was in college, I had a crush on a girl. She spoke Mandarin Chinese, so I thought I would learn Chinese and impress her with my brilliance. So I proudly announced to everyone, I'm learning Chinese with vigor and focus. I signed up for lessons. I got books and CDs. I found language partners. Heck, I thought I'd throw in history lessons too, and I bought DVD sets of historical Chinese dramas. And after 4 months, I gave up. I failed. And not only did I feel disappointment, but I felt burnout and embarrassment. Throughout the years, I've had many spurts of inspiration. Yet over the last few years, I've actually been able to accomplish many of my goals. I realized that by going all in and full focus on a goal, which nobody has time for anyways, I set myself up for anxiety and failure more often than not. Today, I'd like to talk about how I learned to actually think less, stress less, and accomplish more by setting things on autopilot. I always knew saving money for the future was a good thing, but I had no idea how much to save, spend, or where to invest my money. So when in doubt, I just spent more money. Buying a new iPhone is certainly easier than saving and investing. Eventually, though, I sat down and I planned my path. I figured out how much I need for expenses and how much I'd be comfortable saving and spending. From there, I set up automatic transfers from my paycheck to separate savings, spending, and investing accounts. For my fun spending, I essentially paid myself an allowance that was tied to a unique checking account and debit card. That time I was at a nice restaurant, overspent, and had my card declined was kind of awkward, but it was actually really fun since the staff are extra polite to you, like they're the ones who did something wrong. But since I had planned my path, I had set myself on autopilot to save and invest. So the first principle to autopilot is to plan your path. I use the same technique of autopilot to eat better as well. When I get hungry, I get hangry, which means I default to whatever's the easiest and most gratifying option at the moment, which typically means a burrito. Unfortunately, though, over time, it isn't all that healthy. So what I did instead was select healthier foods that I enjoy and made it so easy to access and eat that it would actually be more bothersome to eat something different. Every mid-morning, I get hungry, hangry, and so now, since I've planned my path, I reach in my desk, grab my oatmeal fixins, and 90 seconds later, I've got my mid-morning breakfast. I defined a new default option for when I'm hungry, which just happens to be a healthier option. P.S. Thank you to my nearby colleagues who kindly tolerate my possibly smelly oatmeal and peanut butter every day. Much appreciated. So once I had planned my path, in order to stay on my path, I had to make it obvious. And the way to do that was by defining my default. So the second principle of autopilot is to define your default. The last accomplishment I'll talk about is learning a new language, for real this time. So the last time was to impress a girl. This time I'd already married the girl and then decided to learn a new language. My wife speaks Japanese, so I knew learning a new language would be a long-term activity. So I planned my path. I do daily lessons or practice on the same weekly schedule. I define my default. My lessons would be first thing in the morning. And since there's a real live person waiting for me at 6 a.m., the shame of me sleeping in and missing my lesson sure as heck makes me get up. Over time, though, I noticed I didn't have any major breakthroughs, but I had small, unexpected victories. The first time I could say to my tutor, "Konnichiwa, kyou wa mokuyobi desu." I was ecstatic. On a flight to Japan, when I told the flight attendant, "Chicken seto o kudasai," I was euphoric. I threw away expectations of massive breakthroughs and just continued on autopilot. So once I had planned my path and defined my default, the next key was to just let it ride. And after some time, it's surprising to look back and see I've actually come a long way without even noticing it. So the third principle of autopilot is to just let it ride. In all these examples, saving, investing money, eating better, learning a new language, by setting things on autopilot, I could not only avoid the burnout of going all in, but I could actually harness my inner lazy to accomplish more. Sure, there's some upfront work, but once I planned my path, defined my default, and let it ride, I had way less stress and way more satisfaction in accomplishing the things I wanted to do. So the next time you feel inspired towards a big accomplishment, I hope you might consider setting things on autopilot and think less to accomplish more. Thank you.